Hi, I'm Joe Zannelli. I'm the founder and drummer of the Change of Habit tribute band, and you are watching the ETA Files.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this week on ETA File. Special guest this week, the first non-Elvis tribute artist, maybe. I'm not sure. Who knows? But he is the leader, founder of the Change of Habit tribute band. He's awesome. The one and only Joe Zannelli. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
All right. What's it feel like to be, the first non-ETA on ETA Files?
Well, I'm very humbled that you called me a week ago and said you wanted to talk to me. The first musician that you're having on the show. So
Is that what you prefer to be called, musician? Are drummers really musicians?
it's debatable. Then
Uh,
the other week,
Okay,
but
so you play drums for Change of Habit.
I do.
Um, you have a unique perspective because you get to work with a lot of different Elvis tribute artists. I think probably just about everyone that's been on the show so far you've worked with, and you work with them from all around the world. You get a chance to have some insight into the Elvis tribute artist world that many people don't have,
I do.
including how everyone's behind looks.
Yes. And if we had a contest and lined them all up, I would probably pass that test.
Oh, that's funny. Um, And listen, you've been in this. How long have you been in the business as far as the Elvis tribute artist world? I mean, I know you can tell as much or as little of the story as you want, but you were in this before even Change of Habit many years ago. I've worked with you when you were working also as with EAS.
Correct. Yeah, I last March was 42 years of playing straight Elvis every year, an actual Elvis industry drummer, 42 years. Um, I started playing, I started playing when I was seven. And then when I got into high school, I was very into marching band and playing that way. But that's also when I met Mike Parks. I don't know if you remember Mike Parks,
Yeah.
uh, since passed on, but I went to high school with Mike Parks. And I was in two bands at that time. I was a child of the 80s, so I was very into modern music, new wave music, alternative music. And I was in a band that played that. And we were on the Chicago circuit and the college circuit, and I was doing that. And Mike came to me one day and said, "Hey, my dad's got this country band, and we play country in 50s and 60s and a lot of oldies. And we play at restaurants and bowling alleys. And would you mind sitting in? Because we don't have a drummer right now. We've been doing it for a while. It's called the Expense Account. And they've been together since the 70s, but their drummer was gone. So he wanted me to come sit in. So I had some free time. So I was doing a dual thing. I was like leading a double life. I was out playing modern rock, and then I would go play 50s and 60s with Mike Parks and his dad, Charlie Parks, and Steve Pfeiffer on bass, who also just left us recently. And it was an old time 50s, 60s band. We go play bowling alleys and just Roy Orbison, the Beatles, a lot of country. And I could only do that for so long. I mean, it was, we started 10 at night and we played at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And I thought, well, I'm helping Mike out. This is a nice side thing. I'm able to play music with my buddy. And there was one time that we played behind Dave Carlson, Rick Saucedo, and I mean, these are two ETAs from the past. We're talking 1983. And something sparked in me like, well, I kind of like that. I grew up loving Elvis. My mom loved Elvis. My dad loved him, played his records all the time. I was very well aware of Aloha, Madison Square Garden, grew up with all the songs. So when we did those shows with Rick and Dave, I knew all the songs and I just went by muscle memory and I played everything. And I really enjoyed that. So it was at that time that I kind of pulled Mike aside and said, listen, would you mind if we kind of I tried to navigate us into the Elvis world, which at that time there was only the Ambassadors playing in Chicago. They were the band playing in the Midwest. There was also a band called Bernie and the Boppers, but they were like a 50s, 60s band as well who did Elvis songs. They weren't an Elvis band. So I said, there's nobody out here in the Midwest. So I kind of enjoyed doing that. I wasn't an Elvis fan, so that's where a lot of the spark came from. So why don't we kind of venture into this and see what happens? There was a cluster of Elvis ETAs from that area in the 80s. Johnny Thompson, Saucedo, Joe Torito, Bob West, Dennis Stella. They're all from that area, and we started to hook up with them and play shows behind them. And we were really kind of enjoying it. It was at that time that I met Jerome Marion, who was an ETA, who just moved to the area. And we got to be really good friends. He was my best friend for a long time, and we sat down and we put our heads together and said we could turn this into an Elvis band. Um, and this was right around in 84 or 85. And at the time, he was good friends with Ron and Sandy Bissett, who were in charge of the Elvis Presley International Impersonators Association, the EPIIA, which obviously is no longer. And they were doing one of their, well, it might have been their first convention at the Imperial Palace in Las Vegas. They were going to have all the ETAs out, do a big contest out there. And they were using Bernie and the Boppers, the 50s, 60s band who kind of knew some Elvis songs. So Jerome and I said, let's go out, let's go to Vegas, let's watch this and see what's up. And so we went out there, camped in the back of the showroom, watching the band go through all the songs the best they can. Because once you do a contest, you need to learn, you need to know a lot of songs. I already knew these songs from loving Elvis and growing up with it. But it was just like in a movie. It was just like you couldn't script this any better. Their drummer, and I remember this, sitting in the back of the showroom, looking like a tourist. Their drummer got sick on the second day, and they actually announced over the microphone, "Is there a drummer in the house?" I mean, just like you couldn't script it any better.
I love it. That's awesome.
And so of course, I mean, Jerome ran to the front, because he knew the producers, Ron and Sandy. And there I was, they bring me up backstage, dressed like a tourist, shorts, gym shoes. Wasn't dressed to play a show at all. But I played the whole rest of the contest that day and knew every song. And of course, that's when the spark really hit. That's when we started to hit hard with, we have an Elvis band who can do this. And when they told us the following year that you can do this, you can be the band for this. That's when we went into high gear. We actually, because we all lived close together, me, Mike Parks, Charlie Parks, Steve Pfeiffer, we're all like 5-10 minutes away from each other. We rehearsed every single night for 6 to 8 months, somewhere. Every single night, we'd get 15 Elvis songs, and we go through them and keep going through them until by the end of the night, okay, those 15 are done. Next Tuesday night, another 15. Wednesday night, another 15. And we built this humongous list of Elvis material that we were able to just play any song by just going in. They had all their songs charted. My songs are up here. So if I ever lose this, I'm done. So everything is up here. And by 8 months, we knew over 400 and something Elvis songs. By now it's I know even more, but back then that was a big deal. So there were no Elvis contest bands. There was just the Ambassadors, who they knew Trent Carlini's show, and that's who they were playing for at the time. Very good at it, but they weren't a contest band.
Right.
Bernie Hoppers definitely weren't a contest band at that time. More interested in playing rock and roll. So that was the beginning of there being, probably in the Midwest, the Ambassadors and the Expense Account. We added the word show band because a lot of people didn't understand the Expense Account. When we put it, it would be EXSPENCE, and they'd be telling us, well, you're spelling your name wrong on You put your posters and your advertisements, but it was actually they used to play for Johnny Spence, old ETA from the 70s, and so they were ex Spence account. So we added show band, and it morphed into EAS, and it still is today, EAS. And it made a little bit more sense. And we really built up a repertoire of playing behind a lot of ETAs, doing a lot of contests through the 80s and the 90s. And we, I mean, we went to Ireland twice in 4 months. We were at a lot of inaugural contests that started. Michigan Elvis Fest, Lake George Elvis Fest, New England Elvis Fest, Ocean City Elvis Fest, Georgia Elvis Fest. I mean, they started to throw these big contests and festivals together, which lasted, Thursday through Monday, and we were invited to do those because we knew all the songs. So that was the building up of being EAS, the contest Elvis band through the 80s and 90s.
That's
So
awesome. What a story, dude. That's like 42 years. That's a long time, man.
it is to play straight Elvis. I mean, we had our peaks and valleys. Some years you could do up to 70, 80 shows a year. And then there's some years where it really falls off. But that it's going to pick up again. It's been peaks and valleys every year. Or we could piece together some really good years in a row, and then you have a year kind of falls off a little bit. But you always knew that you had the franchise shows, the shows that you always did every year, and then people were calling all the time, wanting the band. In the 90s, EAS, because we were a contest band and the only band that was in the Midwest at the time, we were in high demand. We
Yeah.
really we were enjoying the wave at the time, and it only made us stronger on stage. I mean, here we were, just two buddies and his dad, and a couple of musicians who played together for a long time, playing Elvis music, and we were really like tightening our skills and everything. And then the youngest brother, Jason Parks, he joined. It was a big family affair. It really was at the time.
Yep. That's when I first met you guys. This would be in the maybe late 90s, early 2000s, when we first met and started working together. I don't know. Did we work together? I'm sure we did. We worked together prior to me having you guys at the Bloomsburg Fair, right?
Yeah, we did. The first time I ever met you, I think it was in Cleveland. Well, there was one year Omar hired us for the birthday tribute, which the ambassadors normally play throughout Chicago and Kentucky, Cleveland, in that area every January. Still doing it. You're still doing it. We played it 2 years. The first year that we played it is when I first met you, and it was in Cleveland. And Dan Lentino told me about you, and I forgot who else was on the bill. Probably Sean Clush and maybe Cody Slaughter. I don't know who exactly on the bill, but it was going to be your first time singing with the band. And I went in the back to meet you, and you were pacing the room. You had on a gray jacket. You were pacing the room. You didn't look happy. You looked nervous.
Yeah.
I remember you being very tall, very serious. You gave me a few pointers on the songs you were going to sing and how you do them. One of them is "Don't Be Cruel." And they were only letting you do like 450 songs. And your look just blew me away. I mean, as soon as I went in there, I was like, "Holy cow." Um, and I remember they let you go on first, and I remember playing behind you in Cleveland, you doing these four songs, and it was incredible. It was just magic, and I that's important to me. So I always had that memory with me,
Uh,
and yeah, we worked together a lot, and you did bring us to the Bloomsburg Fair a couple years in a row where we got to spend the entire week with you, maybe even longer. We
y-
connected with you, and you would really I mean, we learned a lot from doing that, working with you, and it was an incredible time. Great memory.
some of the best memories, like, don't get me wrong, and I've talked about this on this particular program. We don't always know in the moment how special something is until years and years later. Bloomsburg Fair, looking back, those were some really cool times, despite it not being necessarily the best gig in the world. But man, we made it pretty fun, I think. As I look back and I told the story, I made not a lot of money from the fair on that gig. I basically took everything that the fair paid me and paid you, the band, and the hotel rooms. And actually, not even all of that. I needed to make extra money, but I sold so much merchandise that I was able to, not,
As we were singing to sell it right after the show.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. And like, but it all worked out. And man, it was a fun time. Like, remember how we go walking around and we'd win prizes and then throw them out in the audience?
Yeah. In fact, you were really trying to win a Spider-Man stuffed animal that was on a web. And you were really trying to win that all week. And you did finally get it. And you made me attach it to the front of my drum head because it fit exactly a 22-inch drum head. That stayed on there for years after that. I mean, I still have it. It's not attached to my drum head, but I still have it.
That's awesome. We would win like bikes. Remember we won like a mountain bike?
Yeah, we were really kind of roughing it. I mean, it was we would work hard. It was very hot. It was very fast paced. They put my drum set on a riser that they would roll out. We play the songs, they would roll it back in and get the other drummer out there, and it was really roughing it, but it was a lot of fun.
Couldn't hear. The sound was horrible. Never knew like what was going on. Guy having a grand mal seizure 2 years in a row, front and center. I mean,
Seat. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Oh, let me ask you, and we don't have to get into this, but it's the elephant in the room. Obviously you went from EAS to Change of Habit. And to what degree can you talk about that? And I mean, I know it's been a long time ago when that whole thing happened, but a lot of people want to know, like, just like the Reader's Digest version of what happened.
Okay. It was 2003, and we things started to fizzle out a little bit. When you're with family and there's several personalities within a band element that you need to juggle, and um, you just know there was some things that happened, and you just kind of know it may be time. Kind of like a baseball player, he may be a great baseball player, but sometimes you just need a change of scenery, and he gets traded, and then he does better with the new team that he's with. It just was time for a change of scenery, and we kind of all knew it wasn't gelling anymore. And I left, and I brought Trisha Sawilczyk with me, the background singer, because she had been an expense account the whole time. She was my best friend for when we were tiny. I brought her with me, and EAS stayed with new people and continued on. And I was gonna kind of take a hiatus for a while. I wasn't in the right frame of mind. And it was Dan Lentino who gave me a call probably like 2, 3 days after I left EAS, and he said, you have to put a band together. I mean, I do credit Dan for giving me the pep talk. Called me with the pep talk, telling me you have to put a band together. You have too much knowledge and you've done too much to just not do this anymore. And there's musicians out there, and you should put a band together. And he wouldn't hang
Hello,
up.
hello, 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 Joe. Joseph Zannelli. Dan Lentino calling. Joe, you've got to put a band together. You've got too much knowledge. There's musicians out there.
Yeah, I mean, it meant a lot to me, and he wouldn't get off the phone until I basically agreed to do it. And he even gave me a list of names. And I didn't realize at the time that there were so many other people who knew the Elvis material. I mean, Dan's been doing this like more years than me. So he had a list of names of musicians who were playing behind Trent Carlini and Rick Saucedo for a long time that he's used in and out of the Ambassadors. So I went right down the list and I gave everyone a call. There's some people who, it didn't work, but I did find Steve Albu and I did find Nick Tarzia, two founding members of Change of Habit. We're both no longer with us, but they are incredible musicians, amazing people. They had fantastic personalities, great talent. They really gave me the support, and without them, I couldn't have put Change of Habit together. It was that nucleus foundation mixed with Trish on vocals. And at the time, we went through a few guitar players to find who was going to work. But we wouldn't just use a guitar player and then move on to someone else. We had a guitar player who would last 2 years, another guitar player 2 years. I mean, even Cliff Wright, the ETA, was a fantastic guitar player for Change of Habit for like 2.5 years. And I would say we've had at least four guitar players in the band, and to land on the guitar player that we have now, which is Robbie Mason. And we've always kept that nucleus of Steve and Nick until, until recently. But because of the great musicianship of them and the networking that I did and the help of Dan Lentino, very quickly there was EAS and then Change of Habit came up here. So suddenly we had two very credible bands out of Chicago, right out of the same backyard, who people could call. You had the Ambassadors, of course, but you had EAS and Change of Habit, both out of Chicago, who basically did the same thing. We knew all the contest songs. We were going after the same shows, the same ETAs. And as you know, that could create a bit of a problem or a bit of, well, now everyone had the opportunity to, let's try this band, but let's call this band too and see, who we can. There was a lot of leveraging going on price wise and things like that. So you have to navigate yourself through that kind of situation. But I was very fortunate the Change of Habit that was a very quickly, we turned into a very credible band that knew all the material and was able to go out there and pretty much play right away and do a lot of amazing shows.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, I was one of the first people that hired you. I hired you back for Bloomsburg, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was, yes, you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were the one who basically told me, I'm gonna give you a chance with this. And yeah, I mean, I should thank you now. Thank you very much for the stepping stone that was.
Well, stop it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So you've got this incredible career. And I think it's awesome. And all the songs, all the experiences you've had. Let's kind of just dive into that for a second. Like, you've been able to travel the world. You've been able to back so many great guys in different awesome venues and whatnot. Give me I'd like to hear maybe your favorite cool story of this trip, one gig. I'd like to hear maybe your favorite venue that you played in, or maybe this person you backed up in this particular situation, and just those highlight moments, man. Give us a couple of those because you got so many to pick from, I'm sure.
I do, but I unfortunately probably land on a few that I already talked about. Like when we did play the Imperial Palace in Vegas, going from nothing to something of that caliber. We're up there, full band, just put it together. It's when I say it's our idea, me and Jerome, it was our idea. Can we do this? I don't know. We told everyone we can. So this is our first time playing all these Elvis songs, different arrangements, movie song, leather song, jumpsuit song, 3 o'clock in the morning, Mother's Day show song, I mean, all these different arrangements that he did. We have them all written down. And the contestants at that time picked a ton of stuff because they looked at the list and said, "Wow, we can choose from all these songs." So we were nervous. We have earphones on. We're talking to each other through this special system. Where we can like talk to each other about, are you ready? Here we go. They can hear me counting off, and it's this big ordeal in Vegas. And to just be able to successfully do that, it was like this big it jettisoned us. After that was done, we felt, okay, we can do this. And so that's always been like one of the most important things to me. Going to Ireland twice in 4 months, it may just sound like it's no big deal, but that was actually, it's a lot of traveling to do and in a very short amount of time. We went there for Mark Lean is his name, the Irish Elvis. And that was our first time out of the country. So big 8 hour trip out there. And it was a major show. There was 6,000 people, sold out each night, big arena kind of theater in the round. He made these professional DVDs of the show, recreating the Aloha show. You know, we got off the plane and everything's backlined for us, and we're going there and working on the back line, and then coming up to us with the real Irish brogues, the accent saying, "Would you like a Guinness?" And it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're asking us if we want a Guinness. We're like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
put the drum set together. I'm like, it's 10 a.m. And he tells me right in my ear, "It's like an angel crying on your tongue." Next thing I know, the whole band's drinking Guinness at 10 a.m. as we're putting everything together. Big swinging crane TV, cameras. I mean, the result, the video result it was amazing. And at the time, I mean, Trisha was the only vocalist in the band for the longest time, and he has, I mean, everyone did incredible. I mean, it was an incredible experience. They loved it so much. 4 months later, we're on our way back to Ireland to do it again. Um, so that really strikes me as I enjoy all the festivals that we do, the festivals that I've done throughout the years, the ones where, I mean, we did all the original Lake George Elvis festivals where, I mean, they literally had 50 contestants at one time, and you start in the morning and you go till nighttime, then you do a concert at night. I mean, they are marathons. I paid my dues with marathons till my arms hurt. Uh, we did the original EPE cruise right after I started Change of Habit. We were invited to go on the cruise, and they put the expense account in the front of the boat, and they put Change of Habit in the back of the boat. And we just both worked that way, and the ETAs would cross over each night and play with one band, play with the other band. So that was I mean, we did about 6 or 7 cruises after that for Jason Sherry, but the original EPE cruise where we had the opportunity to play with my band and the band that I was in, that was, and the whole boat was Elvis fans, not just part of the boat. I mean, it was an EPE cruise, so that's a big experience for me. And the other one that stands out, see, you got me going now on shows. Um, was when they told us we could do the ultimate. So we did play the ultimate one year, and that was early on also in our career. I don't remember the exact year. Well, it might have been the teens of the 2000s. So going through that whole experience with EPE was wonderful. And that was the year that we actually played 3 different concerts in one day. We did Jason Sherry's contest in the morning and afternoon. Then I played the ultimate at night. And then after the ultimate was over, from like 10 to 2, I did another headliner showcase for Nance Fox at 3 different locations. So I had my original kit out there, and I backlined 2 other kits. So they were already at the 2 locations waiting for me. We would literally play a show, get right in the car, and go to the next.
That's a
I mean,
day.
I do remember playing the contest for Jason Sherry morning and afternoon, getting right in the car and heading over to the theater to play the ultimate. The kit was already there, already mic'd. I mean, the stage was ready to go. It was pretty much bang, bang, bang. And we were all pretty nervous because it was, the ultimate, and things need to be perfect when you play that. I do remember that the kit that they backlined me, which I did not see till I got there, looked exactly like my kit that I just got done playing. They backlined me a tan DW uh, satin oil finish, and that was a coincidence. Um, so I consider that luck. Everything. It was the year that Jay Dupuis won, and
That's
that
cool.
meant a lot to me.
I hung out with you guys, I think that year. No, it was a year after. It was a year after. I remember I was in town promoting the Identical. We had done something there in the park down off of Beale Street.
I remember that. Yep.
We as the band and the road manager and everything were hanging out on a second level watching at night, and we saw Jay Dupuis walk by. And you might have been there. You guys might have been there. You might not have been there. I don't recall. I don't think maybe you were, but anyways, yeah, that was a year. Cool.
I
Uh,
remember watching your identical concert outdoors in that kind of pavilion that they had,
it was like
uh,
500 degrees.
100 degrees, and I remember your two tour buses. Seeing you in your tour bus afterwards. Yep.
Yep. Um, cool stories, man. Cool stories, cool stuff. What is okay, so and we talk about this all the time on this particular program about over the years things have changed, and we've had just the blessing to have like Eddie Miles on or Rick Sacido, Tony Roy, some of these old school cats that were doing it while Elvis was still alive, or like shortly thereafter. Um, and they are cut from a certain cloth. Okay, no doubt about it. And you've worked with people. I've worked with guys like Sean Clush, um, some of Doug Church, some of the older guard out there, kind of cut from a different cloth again. And you go through, and then there's like my generation that came up, and then there's and it gets younger and younger and younger and younger. Obviously, to the point now where I'm starting to become like the old guy, you know. And I just wonder, have you seen what I don't even know the right way to phrase this. Obviously, there's been change over the years. What changes have you seen? What changes do you like? Is there anything that's weird, good, bad, ugly, different? Just talk to me about how the industry, the Elvis tribute artist industry, has changed over the years. 42 years, Joe. You've got some insight on this, so let me know.
It's definitely has gone. I've been fortunate enough to see the phases. I've worked in each phase. The new phase is starting right now. So I can actually say that I'm part of that phase as well. Um, but the first phase was that older group of Elvises. Things were a lot easier then. I say that probably because we were in demand. So they would just call us and we would be able to do whatever we wanted. Um, and it was that group, that older group of Elvises who only a few of them have really stuck around and hold on, like Saucedo and Doug Church. The second phase happened in the 90s where I see when I was working that first phase, you never think that any of those guys are, you think this is it. I mean, you never know there's going to be another phase. You know, um, like back then I was playing behind Irv Cass as an Elvis, and there was names that are no longer there, like Martin Anthony, and I mean, guys were really good at the time, and you're like, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. We're peaking right here. But then going into the next phase of it, I mean, and that kind of started when I did the very first. I was at the very first lacrosse Elvis Explosion, which was done in a parking lot of a hotel right along the water, 105-degree weather when they pouring water down my back with pitchers just to get through the show. Literal ice cold water. I do remember that. Tornado hit as well. Tornado, yeah. Well, right in the middle of the show, we had to stop the show. But that's when the next phase started to come in. And it was the phase that lasted probably the meat of my career. And it's the phase that you're a part of. and all the people that I'm used to playing behind when I do contests that where there's 20 to 30 to 40 guys like Elvis Explosion and some of the Jason Sherry shows, all those same names would come up. It's funny, even nowadays, people go, "Hey, do you know so and so?" And it's like, the name sounds familiar, which means I probably played behind him in a contest for 3 songs. And I just remember him being announced. And there's so many, easily 400 ETAs or more. But as I'd say in the last, how it's changing in the last 10 years, maybe less even, the ETAs are now starting to get their own bands. And it seems like they've caught on with, well, I'm performing in my state to my crowd. I'm going to put people together and have my own band. And several other bands have come out. There's many Elvis bands now, and that's across the US, but there's several bands in the Midwest even. So it's changed now where you go from being in demand and one of two bands, only bands in the Midwest, to there are many Elvis bands of all different calibers. Not every band is a contest band. Um, Certain ones are. There's obviously more than just EAS and Change of Habit that are a contest band. And it's very hard to do, but there are more than just us. But there's several bands now that can be hired. And it isn't so much, well, early on it was a leverage thing price wise, where now it's not just checking with COH and EAS for their prices. Now you're checking with maybe 6 bands for their prices, and everyone's going after the same shows. It is true. I mean, we all operate in Elvis industry as a band with there's enough work for everybody. And we all have pretty much maintained successfully. We don't go in each other's neighborhoods and try to steal shows. Um, so with that being said, we all try to get the same shows over the past 10 years. But if somebody else did get a show over us, whether it be for price or just that's who they wanted, that's when you pull away and you stay away from it. You don't try to steal it or get it back or talk to the producer or whatever. So we all maintain that pretty well. But now I'm noticing as this third phase is starting and all these younger people are coming onto the scene, some of them who you've interviewed, um, it's not so much a call the band and check prices to see I mean, obviously, yes, that still happens. It's more so now we know what all the bands do. Now it's we're choosing who we want. And a lot of it is who's available. Like if EAS is not available, we'll get a call. If we're not available, they'll call EAS or some of the other bands that are out there. It's not so much pitting the bands against each other, who can get the cheaper price, who can outprice each other. I don't see that happening as much. Now, as we're getting more older, it's more, well, you know what? Certain producers, ETAs, situations call for COH. That's who we want. And certain call for other bands, and that's who they want. And then we just stay away from that situation kind of thing. So that's
Yeah.
how I'm noticing this younger group, this third phase that I'm a part of. Um, there's a there's a lot of camps now.
Yeah.
Weren't a lot of camps back then where a certain group of people, producers, they like certain bands. That's who they go with. Certain groups like us. That's who they go with. And so I'm seeing a lot of that. But that's a part of the industry now. That's what the industry is. And everyone's out there successfully making music. So
You, you, you sound exhausted saying that, Joe. You sound like you just, oh.
you try to navigate yourself through a very, you know, tedious part of being a musician in the ETA industry for 42 years. And I want to be able to explain it right. I mean, there's ups and downs, peaks and valleys, I mean, not every situation is great. And then there's situations that are fantastic. So you want to be able to explain it right. And
I understand that. Listen, I understand exactly what you're saying, Joe. And it's hard. I know it's hard to navigate that. Yeah, I think you did a good job. But here's kind of my question to you with all of this. That's obviously the business side coming from someone in the business, in the band business side of this. What I really want to see or know or evaluate, and I'll tell you how I feel, and you can tell me if you think I'm crazy or not. I feel like there is less Elvis in the Elvis world than there used to be. And I think that is why we have the camps that you're talking about. And I think it's because it's become more of an Elvis entertainer audience. Like I like this is my guy. This is my guy over here. Instead of Elvis is my guy, I like this guy and this guy performing as him, but Elvis is my guy. I think there's a kind of a gradual change from Elvis fan to ETA fan. And once you become ETA fan, you then have fandom and you have your own, this is my guy. And I think that is kind of something that is fueling the change in the Elvis tribute artist world. What do you think?
absolutely agree with you. And I am swallowed up in that because we're on stage as part of everyone looks like everyone is there for certain ETAs, not as much there for Elvis anymore. And I see that with a lot of the contests that I do. Um, and when you have so many ETAs that come out, when there's a lot of them, you can see how the crowd is into just the ETAs more so than the Elvis. I totally agree. Even by the music that's chosen to do. Um, yeah, I think a lot of them, especially as the longer that I've been in the industry and as the crowds are getting younger, a lot of the younger fans, they're into the ETA more so than having the memory of Elvis, like a lot of the older people were used to be or are there, I'm sure, to feel like they're at an Elvis concert and bring back nostalgia and the way they used to feel about Elvis songs. A lot of the younger fans are, I like that guy. He looks great. He can sing that song great. And I don't know that song, but I'm going to go buy some Elvis albums and learn what those songs are. So I definitely see it. 100% agree with you that it's their ETA shows more than their Elvis shows, especially in these big Elvis festivals where there's a lot of ETAs there.
I'll tell you this, Joe. This is my opinion. Nobody has to agree with me on this. I believe with all my heart and soul that this is a necessary step. I mean, you might even say a necessary evil. I don't want to really use that term with it, but I think this is a necessary, just like almost the natural course of evolution in this landscape, where it's going to almost have to become a little bit more of that the further you get away from the original product himself. Elvis Presley, it has to go through this evolution to keep this even a little bit alive because the people who are were fans of Elvis are getting older and passing away. Of course, they pass that on to their kids and their kids' kids, but those people were not influenced the exact same way by Elvis himself. And it's easier to become like, hey, I can talk to this guy, go see him and shake his hand. I'm a fan of, whoever.
Yeah, the memory is not there. The nostalgia is not there. They just people, the older people are going, it's like, wow, that looks how Elvis looked when I went and saw him, or that sounds like the Elvis song from the album that I grew up with. That's all going away. Now it's, wow, I saw Dwight Eisenhower at this one show 6 months ago. I'm going to go see him again. He was really good. Or people who are going to see, Dean Z. They like Dean Z for what he's doing, and some of them might not even be plugging that into the memory of Elvis at all. They like the way he's entertaining them at the moment. So Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So yeah, it's really funny. I work at Legends in Concert here in Branson. Dean Z performs right down the road, less than a mile away at Clay Cooper Theater. Dean's awesome. Dean does an amazing show. But people have this, in the Elvis world, fans have this need to, come and say, well, I we like Dean Z. He's really good. You were good too, but we're really big Dean Z fans. I'm like, that's awesome, but let's I don't think that they realize that Dean and I are not in competition with each other, but it's almost like the Elvis world has become this thing where you have to be in competition with other ETAs versus just representing Elvis Presley, who just doesn't have a body. His music lives on. He just doesn't have a body to be on stage.
Yeah, I went through that in my 42 years with everyone thought I was upset with members of EAS or they were upset with us and they were painting all sorts of pictures out there of, how we don't get along, can't stand each other, we're after each other. And it's funny because I would sit down with, members of that band on several occasions and we'd be like talking like this, I mean, just doing two different things, going after, two different things. And so yeah, that's happened a lot. And I do see it with ETAs when I'm even this day when I'm talking to certain ETAs, I always have to ask them, do you get along with this guy before I even bring him up? Because I don't know who likes who anymore, or who's in competition with who, or if anyone is having a problem with someone. I don't want to bring up. I've been in contact with so many ETAs who through the years that I don't know who gets along with who. So I on many occasions I ask them, do you get along with someone? So, oh yeah, I got no problem with them, and then we can talk about it. Or if sometimes I'll bring up somebody and they really don't want to hear anything about that person. So yeah, there's a lot of that, a lot of competition, but a lot of that comes from the fans because they don't know. Um, they're just ignorant to the fact of what's happening backstage or how people really are. And that's why I say they paint this ugly picture. I don't know so much if it happens with the ETAs because obviously I'm not one, but for the longest time it happened with the bands, especially after I started Change of Habit. Um, there might even be some of that happening now, even where people think, oh, that band and this band, they don't get along. And it's like they don't realize we all know each other.
Yeah.
I all the people in all the other bands, we're all musicians and we could be in the same room and actually have, a good conversation with each other. And probably to many people's surprise. So
Yeah. I
that's all.
think, yeah, I can totally see that. I can totally see that. Knowing all the characters that you're talking about from the band standpoint, yeah, I get it, and I think that's awesome. It's good to see. From the ETA side, um, I wonder if the conflict, uh, it's the cool thing to do is be like, hey, we're all one big happy family. Everything's great. I love everybody. Love Elvis, all my Elvis brothers. And everybody has the line down. I love all my Elvis brothers. Um, and some people do, and some people, I mean, and some of it's just words. Uh, but I honestly believe, in a weird sort of way, this kind of drama, almost, likening it to a soap opera in some ways, um, you know, the drama of a soap opera is why people watched for an hour every day for decades and decades and decades prior to social media. We're just getting it in a different way. The formula works. It exists in the Elvis tribute artist world. And then you combine it with almost like this cult. And I don't say it in a weird way. I'm saying cult like like the rockabilly scene was kind of like a, it's cult classic kind of
Yeah.
fringe cool thing, And it's almost like Elvis tribute artist world is becoming what and incorporating in what the rockabilly world kind of was back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and it's becoming its own thing with all the awesome drama and everything. And you can like get into it, identify, get, find your identity in it, pick your guy, be a fan. And I mean, that's what I feel like is really kind of going on. And it might be the only way that it survives, that it might be. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Definitely feeling it. I think that's where a lot of the camps, a lot of lines have been drawn. So that's where a lot of the camps have come from. A lot of contracts have been signed. A lot of people have said, I'll only work with this guy. This guy can only work with us. Um, I always tried to maintain keeping the bands out of that for the longest time, where the ETAs could be drawing lines with each other, and this producer can only work with these guys, and this producer with these guys. I always maintain that, but you can have any band you want. We're not part of that, exclusive to one producer or one show. Unfortunately, it did turn into where people thought that the bands were definitely exclusive to one situation or one producer kind of thing. We actually successfully, over the past 5 years, got out of that situation where now we feel that you can hire any band you want. However, now it's turned into the camps now have their own bands. So lines have been drawn, and this certain producer likes to work with this group of individuals, and we have a band. This producer, they have a band. And so we're feeling the effects of that a little bit, not to the point where it's damaging or anything, but now we see, okay, this is the landscape now. So now let's operate and adjust within this landscape.
Yeah.
And when I say we, I mean change of habit and expense account and EAS, because we're two bands who aren't in a camp or that work exclusively in a certain situation. We are out there playing any show that people want us to play or that hire us. But yeah, it's definitely fueled by line drawing and I'm not saying, doing that isn't necessarily a negative. I'm not saying the line drawing is like it's turning it into everyone's like fighting with each other and there's wars within the. I'm not saying that. There's just people know what they want and they're comfortable with their situation and we like these guys. We like this band who knows what we like to do and can play with our situation, will always be available to us kind of thing. So we see a lot of that going on, but we're not part of the whole exclusive situation. Change of Habit can be hired by anyone who wants to call us, who wants to create music with us, put a show together with us. And that's how I've always maintained the band, so in that. And we have been. So
Well, one place that you are hired, we know coming up in September is Ronnie Craig's Elvis Explosion.
yep.
And that's funny when you said that one phase it started, and you mentioned Elvis Explosion. I think the second year of Elvis Explosion is the year I just started, came up there, and I ended up winning it. And I guess you were the band, right?
Yeah, I've only missed one explosion. Nope, two explosions since it's been in existence. And I was in the audience for the other two. But other than that, yeah, I mean, we've worked with Ronnie and the explosion and watched it grow from a parking lot to what it is now, and working with you as far as turning it into what it is now. So yeah, it's one of my favorite events to do every year. I mean, it's definitely up there. When you say choose your top shows, I mean, how can I not include all the wonderful performances, amazing performances that we got to be a part of at Elvis Explosion? I mean, so yeah, we're looking forward to it.
It's an interesting thing. and I work alongside Ronnie in trying to navigate the changes that everybody's going through. And there's no doubt Ronnie Craig is more of an old school cat. Okay. I ask, I'll say, hey, you got a list of the contestants? And he'll say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll be like, can you send them to me in a document? And he'll say, what's a document?
One of the
Uh,
best lines from Ronnie Craig ever.
but it'll usually be a picture. I appreciate that he's got his cell phone now, but he'll take a picture of a handwritten sheet in his chicken scratch handwriting, and that's what he'll send. So I spent a lot of time, deciphering all this stuff. But the long story is that part of Elvis Explosion's intrigue for me and being behind the scenes is how do we navigate these changes? How do we navigate going from a concept that worked for so many years that now doesn't work the same because the product is changing and your audience is changing. And so that's what we're trying to navigate. And it's a really fascinating journey to understand that it is really changing. I think a lot of people, and Ronnie and I have talked about this. I think a lot of people are like, man, I just, if we just continue to hammer the way we've done things all along, eventually it's going to work because it's worked for so long. And I'm kind of a different mindset that says if you continue to do the exact same thing and expect different results in today's era, you're going to fail. You're doomed to fail. So it's a fun thing as we navigate this and we try things every year. Like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? Different ideas, concepts to engage, not aggravate the older audience that's still there who is very resigned to say no to anything new, but also bring in the new generation, the younger audience that wants it to be far different than what it used to be. And it's a very difficult but intriguing battle of navigating this.
Well, you definitely brought it into the electronic age with the streaming. You can't deny that's helped it. Ronnie can't deny that that's really helped bring lacrosse into somewhat of a new age. Um, However, like you said, it's not all the way. I mean, there's still work that needs to be done. And if anyone can talk Ronnie into it, I'm sure you can. I know, I know it's not easy. I mean, I gave up a long time ago. I give him ideas and he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then when the time comes, he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do it. I mean, you got him to handle the streaming part. He's quite fortunate with that he does this show and everyone still comes back. He gets so many big names and so many people who want to return to this. So now, yeah, you're exactly right. It's time to take that product that you have right now and just move it on one step further.
Yeah.
It, yeah,
Yeah. What I'm hoping for, and every year, like I say, we make small changes. I'd love to see some bigger ones made, but obviously it's Ronnie Craig's production. And I'll be there to help as I can. But man, I've got so many ideas that just are like, I know, and Ronnie hears, Ronnie hears them and he's like, what? We can't do that,
no.
and, but the bottom line is, this year, Elvis Explosion will be even, different and bigger. I love though talking to guys. One thing that happens, and I think a lot of, you know, old school, yourself, the band, Ronnie Craig, um, there is a feel, maybe the last bastion of this to Elvis Explosion. It still has a little bit of that old school feel where there's a little bit more camaraderie, a little bit more. Um, less maybe camps, so to speak, and whatnot. That's what I like about Elvis Explosion. That's why I tell so many guys, I'm like, if you're a young guy and want to just experience something, come on up. It's interesting, and I can vouch for it. On the judging side, man, done everything to try to just make it as transparent as possible. Um, simple things like instead of a scale of 1 to 10, um, where, 1 point, that's a tenth. If you understand what I'm saying, that's a big swing from an 8 to a 9. You know what I mean? Um, and if everyone swings their bias, by 1 point, that's a massive swing when it comes to judging. What about, like instead of 1 to 10, what about 1 to 100 scale, where you have that decimal point, where you're not getting this massive swing, and maybe you can differentiate out this guy was slightly better than this guy, or this guy was slightly more close to Elvis than this guy. So he gets a 96 and this guy gets a 95. Things like that, just little nuanced things of thinking it through and not doing it the same way it's always been done. Um, I try to elevate and really talk to the judges too, and just be like, this is a one-off. This song versus Elvis, not this guy hit the highest note or this guy got the biggest applause. Because I use the example all the time, and certain people disagree with me, but I don't believe in most contests Elvis Presley from 1956 could walk up onto a stage and sing Love Me Tender and win the contest.
I
I just
agree.
don't. So we try to just kind of instill some really basic common sense principles, have some fun out there, and but it's just it is a different feeling thing, and we're happy to have you guys up there, no doubt about it.
It's definitely a common ground where everyone seems to come, big names, new names. Everyone seems to gather there. And you're right, there is this kind of feeling, even during the year when I'm working behind other guys, whether they're high profile guys or guys who are just starting out. A lot of times, guys who are just starting out who are really good, I will ask them if they're going to lacrosse and their eyes brighten up. It's like, oh, I really want to get there. Um, I don't know how to get there, or if is there somebody you can give me a name or something so I can get there. That always seems to be like one event where they really want to go, especially a lot of the younger guys who want to make it in the business and they want to take that next step.
Yep.
And even a lot of the bigger names of guys who don't necessarily do a lot of contests or that are high profile and have been around, they're like, yeah, we want to go back to that common ground area where we all can get along. And so it is a show that is exactly the way you explained it, and I think you and Ronnie have done a good job of putting that together. So imagine taking something like that and bringing it, another step higher. I mean, think of what lacrosse could be, from what it is now, what it could be.
Yeah.
I
We're working on it. We're working on it. It's you can't build Rome in a day, but yeah.
I can tell. I mean, even the ETA singing more obscure songs. Anyone who's watching this, sing obscure songs. Elvis has so many songs other than the basic 10 that are chosen for contests that still have a great vocal and could still win contests. So as an Elvis musician playing for 42 years, choose some obscure songs.
I love that Emilio won singing Blue Moon, won the ultimate singing Blue Moon. I love that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a copycat business. Watch out because everybody's going to be singing Blue Moon.
I agree. I watch songs take that. Like I remember a long time ago when it's midnight, all of a sudden somebody sang It's Midnight. And then everyone did It's Midnight. And it made the rounds for a couple of years and then it kind of went away a little bit. Walk a Mile. This is how long I've been playing music. Walk a Mile was a new song in the ETA industry. And everyone's like, what's that? We need to do Walk a Mile. Everyone was doing Walk a Mile. So I've watched songs make the rounds like that, which as a musician, I find that pretty interesting, especially being an Elvis fan and liking all these songs and everything. I enjoy seeing, songs like We Can Make the Morning and Sylvia. And, all it takes is one guy to do it. Heart of Rome. I remember when Doug Church sang Heart of Rome and was hitting those high notes. everyone did Heart of Rome for 2 years. So it's fun for me as a musician to play those kind of songs and to see them get popular. I got over 300 Elvis soundboards right next to me right here with all the different versions of everything, all the stuff that's not commercial. So there's so many songs that could be done that audiences would love, and could win a contest.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little selfish of me as a musician. I want to play all those songs. So hopefully, choose some new songs. And I always say that before every contest that we do. So hey, you're good at doing that. I mean, you pulled pieces of my life you know, right out of the blue, and you're good for doing songs that aren't done all the time. So
Oh, just wait till this year, baby. Just for Joe Zannelli. We're gonna mix it up. Does the band have any social media, website, any of that stuff? Where do people get a hold of you?
now we're working on the website, but you can reach us on our Facebook page. There's a Change of Habit Facebook page, Change of Habit Tribute Band. And before you know it, there will be a website up. And as we speak, there's a whole bunch of Change of Habit new merchandise being made that will be on sale in La Crosse.
That's awesome. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. I'm gonna have to walk around in one of those t-shirts or whatever. Anyway, all right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's a unique perspective, and I think everyone's really going to enjoy this. I certainly did.
Thank you for having me. I hope so. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. But yeah, I don't get to talk about it that much. Then when you sit back and you think 42 years, holy cow.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, from Change of Habit, Bud joining us here at the late end. From Change of Habit, the one and only Joe Zannelli. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the ETA Files community. And if you're looking for something a little different, be sure to stop by my podcast, The Ryan Files. Keep rocking, my friends, and I'll see you next week with another story from the Elvis Tribute Artist world. In the meantime, check out these video links below.